This is one of those videos that I put on my Instagram that got loads of comments because people couldn't understand, one, what the tool was, and two, why I didn't just use a compression socket or a normal soldered socket or even a press fitting. And it's because the pipe coming out the ground was a really strange size copper. It was really thick, nothing would fit on it. So I had the idea of using my spin swage tool, and even with that, it wouldn't fit. I had to open it out a bit. So you can see that socket looks a bit weird, a bit misshapen. It's because I had to make it even bigger than normal to get it on. What people were most interested in was the tool I used to stop the water flowing. It's called a Jet Sweat from Nerad Tools. I'll leave a link to it in the description. And also the socket forming tool I use my drill. I've got a job in this week's video using that as well. What's up guys, happy Sunday. Thanks for tuning in to my latest video, The Life of a Jobbing Plumber. If you've not been here before, basically a video blog of my working week, whatever I've been up to. Sometimes it's gas work, sometimes it's plumbing. Last week I was on my gas reassessment, so I had to retrain once every 5 years to get the qualification to be able to safely work on gas in the UK, so I was doing that all week. This week's video was going to be about that, but I've just not had time to do it. Leicester were playing in the FA Cup final yesterday. The weather's been nice, just not had time to do it. So this week's video is just business as usual, boiler jobs, plumbing jobs, stuff like that. But I hope you'll enjoy it anyway. Just a quick one while I've got you. If you're not subscribing, please subscribe. It helps me out. And the other thing I wanted to say is it's Mental Health Awareness Week this week. Being a tradesman, self-employed, working alone a lot of the time can be quite lonely, can get down quite a bit. I'm quite a quiet person, although obviously I do a YouTube channel, I do a lot on social media. Real me, quite quiet, very happy in my own company. And sometimes little things I take to heart will upset me. I'll just give you an example. I was doing a job, didn't like the customer, wasn't really enjoying doing the job. Driving there one morning, obviously I didn't want to go, had a panic attack on the way there. Sort of like a wave of, I don't know how to describe it, but it started in my chest and then was like going into my face, through my head, like waves of just like, I don't know, like a pulsating feeling, tight in my chest. Yeah, all because I didn't want to do the job. So just something to be aware of. What I thought would help is if you're watching this and you've got any experience of mental health, you get down, the job affects you in certain ways, just leave a comment, then other guys who are going through it can read it and know that they're not alone, that we all go through it time to time. We all have our down moments. The job affects people in different ways. So if you could do that, that'd be great. And hope you enjoy this week's video. Little known fact about me, I used to be a Worcester Bosch accredited installer. This is a CDI compact I did about 5 years ago, I reckon. Not the worst I've ever seen. So we're going to do a full service on this. So I'm not going to show you every step of a service, but just probably a few tips. But basically we're going to clean the condenser trap out, we're going to clean the main burner out, we're going to check the expansion vessel charge, but I'll just do a few bits just to give you an idea of what's involved, because Worcesters generally, I don't think people like servicing them because they look complicated. Obviously there's a lot crammed into a very small case there, it's a compact. So yeah, I'll just give you an idea of the job. So air intake tube comes out, fluway which attaches to the sump, that's going to come out. So we're going to get cleaned through. Let's put these off. Bendy screwdriver's great for stuff like this. So I can turn that light to get this screw out. You can see that. Let's turning. Yeah, they're only about 12 quid. Well, it was when I bought it. $10 Joker. So that's the burner gasket, which is going to get replaced. This is the burner mesh. Noting where the serial number is, that's going to go back in exactly the same way. Just give that a clean. And that's inside, and put flash on. That's inside your heat exchanger. Needs a good clean out. Get the brush on that. Right, so you can see I've started to clean this, and as you clean it, the crap will come down into the bottom of the sump through the burner, but you need to wash it through. Now, I'm trying to do this with one hand, but basically you've got this drain point on a Worcester. So, I'm going to put my hose on that. Rather than just pour jugs of water down, I'm going to use water from the boiler to wash it through. So isolate the flow and return. I can open the filler loop, just crack it open, and have fresh cold water coming through there to blast it through. So I'll try and do it and show you it coming down at the bottom there. So you can hear I've got the filler loop cracked open, and then very slowly just pumping some fresh water through to clean out the burner, and that'll all wash through the bottom. Let's show you in the corner there. And as it washes through, it runs through the condense trap. So this condense trap will end up being full of crap, and that's why we clean the condense trap out last, because we don't leave all that crap in there. In reverse order, new gasket on there. So that back together, just the condense strap to come out. Give that a clean. Do it outside because the customer's got a nice white astrocast sink, so I don't want to get all this crap all over that. That goes back in full of water, and then like any job I do where you can see I've got water on stuff, blast it with a hairdryer. Just the combustion checks left to do, and then we're done. If you watch that and you're thinking that looked really awkward, everything step by step is listed in the manual. Even fan pressure tests to check if it even needs service, how to get everything out, condense trap, main burner, it's all in there step by step, so it's not as bad as you think it's going to be.
We'll return after these messages.
Right guys, just going to show you how I'm getting on with the Tradify app. So just log in on my phone. I've got the diary loaded, so you can see here, this is all blocked out because I was on my gas reassessments this week. And then I had a few jobs in after the course and at the weekend. And you can see I've got the different colours. So green is scheduled, that means I've been basically booked in. I've not actually done anything on those purely because I was busy, but on these two pink ones, I've changed those to invoice. So that's jobs I've done that need an invoice sent in. And the grey one is a complete one. So that's arranged, invoiced, complete. So I need to just update these as to what I did. There's a couple I need to send quotes off, which I can do within the app. I'll show you that in a sec. And then next week, I've got my jobs booked in. I've got a boiler swap on the first day. And then on Friday, just got that appointment in, which isn't a job, but I've got my COVID jab. So let me know what you think to that. That'll boost my comment rating on YouTube. So that's the phone side of it. And then on the laptop, so this is a job I went to on Saturday morning, which was on the details there. Leak on the radiator in the downstairs toilet. If it's an easy fix, call in and advise. We have quotes, so I can advise the landlord. So I've got to send a quote for that. So what I'm going to do is on here, if I click on quotes and then new quote, the details of that job which we typed in when we set the job up is already there. So I can fill that in, add costs and stuff, and then email it direct to the letting agency, which I couldn't do before. I had to literally write a new email. So I think that's a good feature. But as I've said before, if you want to try it out, 14-day free trial. And then if you like it, like I do, you can get 50% off for 3 months, I think, if you use code B Plumber, but I'll put that all in the description. Strange little job this. I was doing a gas certificate for someone and they mentioned they had another property. They've got some pipes that need moving. And it's these two pipes here, heating pipes that just sit proud of the floor level. I don't know why they're not sat in that notch, but they're not. So they want me to move those down. But when I first looked at this to quote for it, this speed fit pipe here was the original copper pipes that came up and straight underneath them. And someone's altered that. So if they altered that, why didn't they do those as well? I don't quite understand. There's definitely another plumber here because there's some 10mm speed fit there, which has got to be for the heating. So I don't know why they couldn't do it. They're doing the bathroom. Anyway, I just thought I'd show you this. This is an old manifold. If you've never seen these before. Looks a bright mess, but we've got flow and return, and then these 8mm pipes go off to the radiators. Now, if it was me, this would all be coming out, but it looks like, because they've cut that one, so flow one and this one goes into this return, maybe they're going to connect that on there for a radiator. I don't know, but it's not my job. So my plan is I'm going to cut this one here, and then hopefully that will give me a bit of play to move that apart, and I'll get my pipe slice in somewhere down there. So that's the first cut, and then I've just managed, it's tight, but I've got it on. Okay, that's one out. Gives me more room now to cut the second one out. So I've got my slice on the second one. I'm having to come quite low because there's so much bloody solder dripped down to get my pipe slice on and get a decent cut. That's just best I can do. That's the second one out. You can see there the solder drips, stopping me from cutting it any higher. Could have sweated it off, but. So there's my two pipes cut. I've just put my screwdriver in just to get them off the wall a bit, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to form or swage a couple of sockets in the end of the pipe using this drill bit. Now, the reason I'm going to use this drill bit, we can't use the traditional one, the hammering one, because if we put that in and started hammering it down, because the pipe's fixed, it will just bend the pipe, knacker the pipe lower down, so we can't use that. I do prefer the finish this gives you over this, but in situations like this, this is the one that you have to use. And I just thought it'd make an interesting video for you to see how it works. So that's the drill bit in the end of the drill. I'm just going to put it on its fastest speed, and then we're going to form a socket in the end of the pipe. If you can see that. So now we've got a lovely swage socket in the end of that one. I'll just do the one next to it. There we go. 2 swage sockets. There's a stop on the end of the bit, so it can only go as deep as the stop, but yeah. So I've cleaned them up, and that will now take a piece of 22mm copper, and we can solder just the top one, which is easier than having to solder underneath. I mean, it's not the tightest, I would have been able to do it, but it's just really to demonstrate the, where is it? Demonstrate this bit. It's not a necessity, it's a luxury, but if you've got one in your kit, you will come across certain situations where you do need to use it. So I'll get this all set up now, bend here, and then we'll solder it. I'm going to do the right hand side one first, and then that comes along, drops down, because these pipes are quite low compared to where they come out. So it drops down, bends, and then a socket on there. So I'm going to get this one done, and then we'll do the second one. This is a brand new bottle of gas, and it's already ran out because, if you remember last week or the week before, I told you about this flexible hose that's split there. Well, it's also split there at the bottle now, and this valve don't even work. That is turned off, so that's on, and that is all the way turned off now. Listen to this. That's pissing gas out even with it turned off. Do not buy it. Rothenberger flexible gas hose. And that's it done. Just need to wrap these where they go through that notch. But I can't find all the boards, but this one's just a little bit of an offcut. That will sit nicely on there now, so yeah. This is a very common fault you'll get if you work on Baxi boilers. Not as bad as this. This is because the tenants just left it and not told the landlord, or the landlord's not done anything about it. But basically, the domestic hot water flow switch will drip like this. Normally, when the tap's opened, when the pin comes in and out, it'll bring a bead of water out with it. But this one's got so bad that it's just constantly dripping. You can see it dripping there. So I'm just at the editing stage of this YouTube video you're watching now. I just thought I'd show you this. So if you look at the domestic hot water flow switch, that micro switch there, and then this one up here is for the pump. So when you call for central heating demand, this micro switch needs to make to tell the PCB that the pump's spinning. But also when the hot water demand is on, this micro switch needs to make, because we do need the pump to pump the water around the plate heat exchanger. Basically, when someone runs the hot tap, pin comes out and activates this micro switch, and that tells the circuit board that hot tap's been opened. Now at this point, before the micro switch is made, nothing's happening on the central heating flow switch. But as soon as that micro switch makes there, you can see that pin comes out. And that's because once this is made, it tells the PCB someone's opened the hot tap, we need to go into the sequence of ignition, which means the pump needs to come on for the boiler to fire up. And it's this micro switch here that tells the PCB that the pump's spinning. So if we watch it again slowly, hot water pin comes out and then touches the micro switch, and the flow switch on the heating comes out. The hot water one happens before the heating one happens. Just to show you the sort of relationship between the two. We don't get the central heating flow switch come out until the pump comes on, and the pump doesn't come on until there's a demand. If we just called for central heating, the PCB would put a demand on, the pump would come on, and this would work, just this one, without this one for the central heating. Right, now let's get on to the actual job. So to make this repair, we need to isolate the cold supply into the boiler. And because it's a combi, doing that will kill the water supply to the hot taps. So if you open up your hot tap, nothing should come out of it. So we've isolated the cold water, there's no hot water, and we are safe to work on this. And you can see already that that's stopped dripping. Now, we need to get to the screw that holds the micro switch on, and unfortunately I can't because someone has wired this boiler in so tight that the front cover PCB won't come down. They've actually drilled a purpose hole through the cover rather than just put longer cables in. I don't know what goes through some people's heads, but anyway, we need to take this screw out, and once this screw comes out, we can remove the micro switch. It just slides out, and just leave it out of the way, and then we can loosen that front nut to take it out. So the front nut, once it's loose, you probably need a pair of grips or a spanner. Pop that out. Now that is a replaceable part that you get in the service kit. So this is the service kit. You get a diaphragm. So if you had an issue where the pin wasn't coming out, you had no hot water, we would be replacing that. But just because we've got the leak, we're only going to be using the front nut, but also this little O-ring. Now there'll be people screaming at me through the screen saying that's not what this is for. But hear me out, just watch till the end of this video. So I like to put that O-ring on this push rod. I keep these diaphragm repair kits on my van as van stock because they are a common fault. But if I was in the middle of nowhere and I'd used my last one and I didn't have one, so I didn't have this new front nut, I would reuse the old front nut, but I would put an O-ring on that push rod out of my O-ring box, and it would cure the problem. I've done it hundreds of times, so I promise you it does work. You can see this front nut comes with a little bit of silicone inside it. So you don't actually need that O-ring, but I like to put them on. I think it helps. I've never been called back to one after I've done it, but that's not what it's for. I am going to tell you what it's for coming up in the next part of the video. But you can see there now, I've got the water back on. The rod's coming out. There's no water, there's no leaks. So basically we've fixed the issue, and it's took, a couple of minutes, if that. Then all you need to do is refit the micro switch, and then you can test it. Open and close the hot tap. You see the pin comes out, hits the micro switch, the boiler fires up. Right, I'm going to show you where that O-ring should go now, but I just wanted to talk on the importance, or why I think instruction manuals are great for heating engineers. So if you look at this one, it says here, please leave these instructions with the user. It's also good to have your own set. Now you can download these as a PDF off the internet, or you can, if you fit in a lot of these boilers, you might get a spare one day, keep them in your van, keep them in your office, whatever, for reference. But they are absolutely great. There's so much knowledge in them. So just this one, if we look at the contents, we've got appliance operation. That's great. If you want to understand how a boiler works, literally it's spelled out for you there. We'll have a look at that in a minute. Technical data, if you want to check the performance of your boiler, make sure you're getting the correct output from it, the correct temperature rise on your hot water, stuff like that. It's all in there. Obviously, if you're fitting it, the dimensions and stuff, site requirements. But for fault finding and performance testing, servicing, they're also great. We've got servicing here that you'll be a step-by-step picture guide, and then we've got fault finding and a short parts list. So the most common parts that you're going to need, you should have part numbers in the back there so you can order them easy. They've got a lot of exploded diagrams as well, which are great if you want to understand how parts go together, where O-ring seals might need to be. Everything is in this book. So we'll go to, we'll quickly look at the, where was it? Appliance operation. So we've got these two awesome pictures that basically show you how a combination boiler works. Top one's central heating, bottom one's hot water, and they've grayed the pipes out where the heat's going. So on central heating mode, we've got the return coming in through the pump, through the heat exchanger, and then into the diverter valve, out to the radiators, and that's the hot pipe in that diagram. Then when we go to hot water mode, the heat is going through the heat exchanger, through the plate, and back, and then the cold water's coming in, picking up the heat from the plate and going out to the hot taps. So, and it's all listed here, text. Also, all the parts are named, safety thermostat, temperature sensors, where the expansion vessel connects, everything's labelled there. So if you want to get a good understanding of how a combi boiler works, just have a look in one of the manuals. They're not all about how to fit it, you know, and fluid standards and stuff. So here's our technical data. So our flow rates, we should get a 30-degree rise at 13.7 litres per minute. If we've got 9.8 litres per minute, so less flow, we get more temperature rise. And you can use that to check the operation of the boiler. So let's go to, this is the diagram I wanted to show you. So this is the domestic hot water pressure differential valve, or I would call this the flow switch. So this is the part we're working on, this front nut here, and this is where it's been leaking from. So what I did was remove this front nut with the water off, and you can replace that front nut, and sometimes it will stop leaking. It comes packed with silicone grease. You'll notice when you put it on, some silicone grease will come out at the end. But I've repaired these before where I've just used an O-ring because I've not had a diaphragm repair kit on the van. And when I've done that, I've used one of these kits. These are my O-ring boxes. This yellow one I've had my whole career. That's Imperial. And they're the little ones I use on the flow switches. And then this box is metric size. Don't use this as often. You can see it almost looks brand new. But what I found was I was using these to also repair monoblock mixer taps, you know, the spouts, and this sort of size was popular, but there was one in between where it weren't quite right, so I needed this set for that. But it's handy to have on the van because, you know, you never know when you're going to need an O-ring. What I've found through experience over the years is putting that little black O-ring over the push rod where it comes through, either with a new nut or with the old nut and some silicone grease, that cures the problem. But that black O-ring doesn't go there. It's not intended to go there. It actually goes the other side of this. There's another screw in that holds that O-ring. So you see the push rod there. We've also got another one there that goes in and pushes the diverter valve. You can just see it sticking out there. That O-ring is intended to screw in there. But I've never had a diverter valve or one of these pressure differential valves leak from this point and drip down. I've never had to replace that as a job. So I've always, and I think probably the first time I did it out of error. I just assumed that's where it went because it's a tiny little O-ring. It fits perfectly around that. That's what it's for. But no, it's actually for the other side of that. So obviously if you've got that problem, that's what it's for. But it's great for putting in there, and if you've not got the diaphragm kit, use one of the O-rings you get in your O-ring sets. But just thought I'd cover that because when I've done this before on Instagram and I've showed this repair, someone has commented, you're using that O-ring wrong, it's intended for there. And moving on from that, we've got more exploded diagrams of parts where filters might be located. Wiring diagram showing you where all the different components connect onto the PCB, numbered and colours for the cables, wires. And then everyone's favourite part, the fault finding. So you get a step-by-step flow chart, what the boiler is doing, check the next box, is it doing this, is it doing this, and it sort of leads you through, holds your hand all the way to the fault. Normally they're pretty good. And then right at the end, we should have our short parts list. So fans, pressure switches, electrode leads, spark and sensor electrodes. So you've got part numbers there and pictures of the parts. So yeah, keep a book, download a PDF, keep it on your phone so you've got access to it. They're really useful.
Hey guys, it's Mark from MJ Tiff Plumbing and Heating, the other YouTube channel. I'm sure Pete will add a link up in the corner or wherever he puts them.
I ain't got a clue how to do that, so here's his channel.
Yeah, Pete's been on a while to get me on, telling me one of my I fucked up stories. So here it goes. It was probably about 12 years ago, no, probably longer than that, 14 years ago, just as I started on my own. I was working for a builder, we was doing a nursing home. And we had to isolate part of the building, just cap off the heating pipes for this part of the building. Now in a nursing home, I don't know if it's the same if you've worked in them, but they like you to leave, you can't shut the heating off. They need it on all the time to keep the oldies, you know, pretty warm and wrapped up in their blankets and everything like that. So they wouldn't let us shut the heating off. So I've gone, all right, no problem. We'll go and get the freezer kit. So I went and got a big freezer kit, a big proper one. At the time I hadn't been working for myself, so I didn't have one. So I went and hired a big proper full-on heating system, freezing system kit. So I've gone back with it, connected it all up, started freezing it. And if you use freezer kits, you'll know that it comes a point in it where you can hear the pipework cracking where the ice block's freezing inside. Now I always do it before a knuckle bend. So if that block happens to shift, luckily, hopefully, the knuckle bend will stop the block going anywhere. So anyway, we're freezing it, we're hearing it cracking, and we've got the new cap, 22mm caps to go on, pasted up, grips ready to the right size of the nuts, ready to literally snatch it, get it on, away you go. So we've heard it cracking, cut the pipe, got a bucket under it, cut it, little bit of water's come out, fine, perfect, no water coming out. As I've reached round to grab the fittings, come back and I've heard that whoosh, the bung's gone. The bung's come out this pipe, and there's red hot heating water pipe coming out. I'm like, fucking hell. Grab the cap end, grab the one side of the pipe naturally in your head, grabbed it, it's red hot, it's burnt on my hand. Hot water is pissing out now, central heating water's pissing out. Got the cap. As I pushed the cap on, tried to push the cap on, you're going against the force of the water, B, the water's hitting the cap, flushing back, so I'm holding the pipe here, pushing the cap on, trying to get it on. Luckily I've got it on, but in the meantime, I don't know if you can see it, I've still got the scars on my hand today. I've got 1st degree burns all across the top of my hand where I pushed the cap on, literally blistering up. I've still got to do the next one. I said to him, sod it, I ain't doing the next one. At the time, a nurse has come in, because it's a nurse home, the nurse has come in, she's seen the blistering on my hands, literally just wrapped cling film on it, down to A&E, and I had to have a slight sort of little skin graft on the side of my hand here. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, needless to say, managed to get that cap on that one. The other one, I just insisted, I said, I'll come, you know, whenever suits the residents being, you know, not using the heating as much. We managed to shut the heating down for literally an hour, take the heat off it, and it bunged a lot better, and we managed to do it. But yeah, that's my eye fucked up. And since that day, I've always said I will never, not that you should, never do a heating system capping off when it's still hot. But you know, you're naive in the early days. So right, that's it. Don't do it, because you'll burn your hands, boys.